Why, hi there. I'm Ron Juckett, and welcome to another edition of Ask Uncle Ron, where I answer your questions on pretty much, don't get too close to the camera, on any subject your heart desires, as long as it can be spoken about in a non-political, religious way. Oh, so Tony Porter's doing a watch party for his videos. How you doing? All right, so the Patriots are beating up on the Browns, like we're shocked at that. What's on my mind tonight? As I play with the camera, I see that Joe Ross is going to get the start in Game 5 of the World Series. Plays a few novenas for the Washington Nationals. I was going to do this anyway after watching Friday night and listening last night. By the way, if you are a radio, if you prefer your baseball on the radio and have either TuneIn or Sirius XM, Charlie Slows and Dave Jagler are one hell of a listen for the Nationals. Well, just said hello to you. How are you? Glad to have you along. Fan-O-Matic, how are you? It's amazing just how much this World Series has changed in the last 48 hours. And that was before Max Scherzer got scratched because of back and neck pain. All right, but I will answer this question first. If you buy a season from 1941 forward, they are already set. All you do is set as played, and it will set up the rules for you. I'm not sure what seasons from before that are there, but from 41 forward, you're good to go. It will make all the trades for you. And I believe that the numbers that you see on the screen are for that player on that particular team. So, like I said, 41 forward, you're good. They're all there. When I did the 82 replay, that was all as replayed or as played lineups until we got, it's all there. It's all there. You just set it as played. It's all there. The 82 season was as played all the way through, and then when we got to the playoffs, I did. You're welcome. I did as what I could based on the information that I had. I'd played a lot of Baltimore coming down the stretch because that was a lone divisional race that we had, and there was some rather loud discussions about what Glenn Gulliver's role should be. But Gulliver played third for Baltimore down the stretch, and that was who their third baseman was going to be. And I got Baltimore to the 6th game of the World Series. It couldn't have been that bad. Anyway, back to the current World Series. And the name of the title, which is the 1986 edition. This World Series Charlie and Dave. That's what I was talking about. Great listen. Baseball, of course, is the perfect radio sport. And just as we talked about with CP, Combat Painter, who grew up with Bob Murphy in New York with the Mets, and me with Ken Coleman and Joe Castiglione here with the Red Sox or whatever. It's so much more radio sport. Even if you like Ma and Pa Yankee, which I don't. Washington, I think, has doing what I remember the 86 Red Sox doing. Yeah, it's a tough break indeed. Your season basically now rides on Joe Ross. That's but stranger things have happened. Long story short, you know how the 86 Red Sox season ended, and I've joked about still needing therapy for that World Series. Trust me, I didn't need therapy anymore after they won the 04 World Series. But Washington is doomed according to your History Maker replay. I did did it in Action PC, and Washington 1-5. And Houston's best pitching performance came from Urquidy. and that was Game 4, which I did Thursday afternoon. 86 Red Sox and Mets. Mets won if for those not familiar with the start of that series, we know how it ended, and I really don't want to get into that again. New York. Yeah, Urquidy pitched Game 4, went 5 innings, kind of like real life. I had Zimmerman actually hit a home run in his first World Series at bat. They split the 2 games in Houston, and Washington won the 3 in DC, and Urquidy was the best pitcher. Cole was not all that great. Scherzer, who was supposed to pitch tonight, pitched a good game 5 and got me right to Doolittle pitched excellent. All the games are up on my channel. There's 2 doubleheaders, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and I did 5 at noon yesterday. So go take a look. As a Nats fan, you'll like that better. All right, so back to the 86 story. And that's, the crazy thing is that it really is the opposite of a lot of people's results. But I think in a best of 7 series, I'll get into that in a few, anything can happen. And so there's a couple series that have gone Washington's way. And, the odds makers thinks it's going to be Houston. And as of right now, I would say Houston at 6. Has the playoff teams only, which is how I did it. But History Maker, as you know, came out with the teams in August, and Roster Card Baseball has the cards out and a couple other things, I think. Just the full action PCs will come out in December. All right, so back to the World Series story. 86 was 14. And we talked a little bit about this, I think, on one of the baseball streams. The Red Sox absolutely had no right to be in that World Series. Let's just be honest from there. I can say this now at 47. I couldn't say at 14. They got lucky in Game 5. They forced the Angels into making many mistakes. And then they won Game 5. And then California got up 3-0 in the first inning of Game 6. Boston responded, and that was it. California was dead team walking. Dave Gardner, hope you feeling better, buddy. And so the Red Sox went into that World Series against a Met team that won 108 games. They didn't want to face Mike Scott again, but the Mets were, I don't know what the odds were. I went to look, and I'm not sure I could find that. They must have been prohibitive favorites, as in what the Baltimore Orioles were in 69 over the Red Sox. And then the Red Sox went into Shea Stadium and won the first 2. They beat Ron Darling in Game 1 and Dwight Gooden in Game 2. And that's kind of like beating Garrett Cole in Game 1 and Justin Verlander in Game 2. And then I think what happened was the Mets realized that, oh my gosh, the Red Sox are for real. And the Mets took 2 out of 3 at Fenway, forcing what we know happened that last weekend. And going into tonight, that's what I think happened to Washington was they've been playing with house money for so long. They went into Houston and beat up on Cole and Verlander, and they got home and realized, we're in the World Series, man. And they tightened right up. I think Juan Soto just kind of got too nervous in Game 3, and they just looked bad last night. They just did nothing went right. And so for me, it's too eerily similar to 1986 as far as the Nats are concerned. Now, it would be like, who pitched Game 5? I think it was Bruce Hurst pitched Game 5 because he got Game 7 after the rain delay. And there'll be no rain delays in Houston. They have a roof. It would be like pulling out Bruce Hurst and going with the injured Tom Seaver in the 86 series. I mean, Washington is really right behind an 8 ball. And I was chatting with Ricky Keeler earlier today, and we both think that whoever wins tonight will win the series. I just cannot see Houston with a 3-2 lead losing games 6 and 7 at home. And accordingly, if Washington wins tonight, I think Washington's in great shape because they will have 2 chances to win on the road. So kind of a tough break. How you doing, Mr. Mike? There. So that's my thought on things. Max Scherzer is one of the biggest game pitchers I've ever seen. That's not the guy maybe you want to start a Game 7, but as far as presence in the dugout and ability to perform under high pressure situations and inspire his team, yes, Washington was going to ride his tushy as long as it could tonight, and now they're not going to get the chance to do that. And you go with Joe Milquetoast Ross, who, look, if you got a hidden gem in you need to see that tonight because it won't matter. I mean, and you really can't go Strasburg on short rest. Doesn't quite work that way. So, anywho, it just kind of goes back to the funny nature of playoffs. This is 3 times at least a team has gone up 2-0 on the road, and at least in 85 and 86 and 96, they've all lost the series. The 85 Cardinals really won the World Series, but Don Denkinger still says otherwise. The 86 Red Sox, who definitely lost that series, and the 96 Braves. There may be other teams that I'm not thinking of at the moment. They won the first 2 in New York. New York swept them in Atlanta, and Wade Boggs is still riding that blessed horse through the Bronx. In 96, the Yankees came back to win the last 4. So just food for thought out there. All right, guys, what's on your mind? We've done a bunch of stuff this week. We had 2 great games. The 86 replay for football is going great. And of course, we did the pre-play for the World Series, which a lot of you guys watched, and I'm greatly appreciative of that. Saturday at noon is not an ideal time to stream, but we did it anyway because I wanted to get it done. So regardless of what happens tonight, and of course there now will be a Game 6 Tuesday in Houston, our pre-play is done because Washington won it in 5. So it doesn't matter what happens now. We're done with that. Evgeny Crosby, how are you? You know, I've watched some Penguins highlights this year, and I'm loving the return to those 80s uniforms. The yellow ones I'm not real thrilled about, but it is kind of cool to see the black and gold ones back. Been fun. Montreal's having a decent year. They're not. I seem to be rooting this year for mediocrity, which I guess is kind of the story of my life, if you ask me. The Giants played an inspired game against the Lions today and nearly pulled it off. But they're not a good team. I like Daniel Jones. I like Daniel Jones a great deal. That defense is a Hoover. It just sucks. Montreal, the Canadiens, I mean, Dave Gardner's got to be dancing up and down. I mean, Montreal's an improved team. They're a good young team, but the only thing they're going to threaten is not making the draft lottery because they might make the playoffs and then they'll get promptly smoked. Now, the baby blues for Pittsburgh were their original colors. And so I kind of like that. But the black and gold is, I'm old enough that that's what I remember. And so I like that better. We all like what we remember at 14 years old. For sure. For sure. So what's new with you guys? Dave Gardner and I hope to tape a new episode of Digital Dice on Tuesday. If you have a topic that you'd like us to discuss, put it in the chat. If something goes with Dave that strikes Dave's fancy, we hope to do it. We also hope to, after the World Series is over, I think we're talking Thursday, doing Game 1 of our Islander-Oiler Stanley Cup replay from the last time the Islanders won the Cup. 82-83, we're going to use Strat. 82-83, we're going to use Strat for that. Dave is really liking that. Dave's pretty happy because Cleveland is playing New England in the pouring rain in Foxborough, and New England is winning. Gosh, color me shocked. Actually, Evgeny Crosby actually did a hockey card opening on his channel. Mike, what you doing on your channel? And I haven't seen much. Phantomatic's not popping up in my subs. I know I subbed to him. I even made him a moderator, and he's one of my Patreons, as a matter of fact. So you can tell me what you guys got going on in your channel. I know that Combat Painter is doing some early morning streaming too. When I wake up, I see that he's doing it. The streaming, that is. I don't know what he. So let me know what you got going on in your channels and such. Need to find some guests for the Ron Juckett show coming up now that baseball season's over. He makes fun of his dad and tells him that he's older than Penguins have been around. My God, do I really want to go through how many teams in all 4 sports that I'm older than? I'm 47. I'll be 48 next month. So if you came to being after 1972. I'm older than you. And I still think the Colts play in Baltimore. Every once in a while, I'll slip up and say Baltimore Colts. So what else have you guys got going on? This is a chance to hear from you. Did the other American League final or semifinal for that 60 tournament today, and Baltimore won a game, which means of the 4 teams that were home teams, and that they were the only one that did it, and they won 1-0. Go back and watch. It's interesting to me. I mean, you guys do that play the games. Oh, cool. Been busy, but gonna resume his History Maker Golf Match Play tournament this week. And so if you're not a subscriber to Fanomatic, you should be. Random really enjoying the Hafner game. Have an idea if doing the... I can't get most of those games to work. The tennis one I can get them to run, but I can't get them to work. I tried the basketball game and loaded 2 teams, and it doesn't give me any options. And I don't know what exactly I'm doing wrong. It's in the DOS box and all that. But Sports Time Machine did a football game, Boston College and Miami 84. And that was interesting. Can't choose who gets the ball, but it's, the Lance Hafner games are, quite old school, and I give the community a lot of credit for keeping those games alive. And the Rampage Wrestling is a big fun one, and Mike does some of those on his stream, so on his channel. If you're not familiar with the Lance Hafner games, they also advertised in the classified ads of the Sporting News when I was a kid, along with Renata Glasso cards and some other things, Stratomatic, APA, and I don't know if you bought them, if you bought seasons individually or that, or if they just all came in one. I bought the tennis game, and the tennis one is the one I can get to work. And it really is fun. You can slow it down, and it's a shot-by-shot game. So, and you can set it so there's no tiebreakers. And no one ever gets tired. It's great. I love it. A good 16-14 set. All right, so that's what's got going on. What was I talking about? Nats or toast? I think so. Sadly, I agree. If they come back to win tonight, then all bets are off. But Houston seemed to realize, like I said in the beginning, the 86 Mets seemed to realize once they got the Fenway that, maybe we should take this seriously. And the Astros are pretty good. Hate to say it. Yeah, it would be the equivalent of Bob Stanley starting Game 5 of the World Series for the Red Sox that year. I don't see it either. But stranger things have happened. That's why they play the games. So I'm glad to see that anyway that the Hafner games have come back to life, at least on a small form. There's Philip Lupi is doing a 1960 college basketball replay. He's got a Facebook group, which I'm a part of for that. And that looks to be really fun. And you can set the rules for whatever. The folks that put those data discs together have done a tremendous amount of work. I haven't tried the football game, and my baseball games have baseball games. Wanting the hockey game to work. Giants were indeed huge in 86. I remember where I was when the Super Bowl was played. Kind of a sad story about me. I wasn't a Giants fan. I didn't really like Phil Simms. I got the game to work. I just can't get the options to show up. 86 Super Bowl, Denver, New York, and in Pasadena. Friday before the Super Bowl, my mother's dad passed away, so my grandfather, and we were no longer in that area. So we made the slow trek down. My dad was in Europe, I think, for a couple of weeks because he wrote about ski racing, and so I think he was following the World Cup tour. And so we go down back to Southern Vermont, and I watched that Super Bowl at a friend of my mother's house during my grandfather's wake. And of course, Simms has tore that place apart, 20 for 23. If you go back and watch the Redskin Giant game that I did Friday. It's kind of eerily, just with the, Phil Simms is like the curly haired girl. When she was good, she was very, very good. And when she was bad, she was horrid. And I agree. Bregman hit the grand slam at the ankle. Yeah, at some point, when you're done losing the house money, you got to go with your own. And the Nationals have gone further than I thought that they would this year. The lay that they got is what they did. They're not, it's 2-2. We're making it sound like the Nats are dead team walking. Their odds are not in their favor. Not in a gazillion years. In fact, let me take a look. What will you get me tonight for odds? Come on. Hey, man. Game lines. Futures. Can't get a line on that. Anyway, I can't imagine it's very good. Let me see if I can look again. My bookie says pretty much the odds at my bookie says the favorite is Game 6. A lot of people outside of Houston are rooting for the Nats. Doesn't break my heart that Bryce isn't playing for sure. When I covered them, and if you wonder why we're spending so much time talking about the Nationals, I covered that team for a year and a half, including 2 Game 5 disappointments. And you just want to know how that team is going to get over the hump and get on to the next step. And so they got some momentum when they won the wild card. And of course, what they did to Los Angeles was cool. And then they went and swept St. Louis. So what was the other thing I was going to make? We were talking about simulations and how my World Series pre-play is very different from Tony's World Series pre-play, and it's different from the USA Today pre-play I'm seeing. And it is almost impossible to put in a simulator on such short notice how Davey Martinez is handling his pitchers and having starters come in, which is one of the reasons why Washington has been successful, is because of that. He's had Corbin come in, he's had Scherzer come in, he's had Strasburg come in. And if you simulate that in Action PC, then they're tired for the next start, and you can't do that. Yeah, Dave and I did it live on my channel the night that Bart Starr died. It was one of the most watched things ever on the channel. We actually found the conditions and played it in the conditions, and Dallas couldn't pass and Green Bay could. I'm not sure how much of the weather affects the numbers in Action PC football anyway, but yeah, we did. But yeah, so that's a toughie. And as a game maker, how do you put that in? Is it a valid strategy? Yes, it's an extremely valid strategy. I'm surprised it hasn't been tried before. Much like 2016 when Andrew Miller got put in for Cleveland in the 6th inning in a true fireman's role, And then then the Cubs did it with Chapman in the World Series. You just get tired out. How do you model that in a game? If you're playing a cards and dice game, you can, because cards and dice don't get tired. They're just pieces of paper. You're the one that determines how tired they are or not. On a computer, that's a different story. The computer determines how tired they are. And while, okay, going 15 to 20 pitches on your throw day isn't going to tire you out, you're doing it anyway, the computer's going to go, oh, you can't do that. You're now shortened your next start. And that indeed was fun. All right, what else you guys got? On a rainy night here in New England, it's poured here all day. I got stuck inside, had my sandwiches, egg sandwich and coffee this morning, can't you tell? And played the baseball game at noon. Sports Machine Z comment said, yeah, I think that, although the Orioles didn't win the 69 series, they were the better team. Mm-hmm. But the one thing I've learned over the years from playoffs and tournaments and all that is that it is not a tournament, or a postseason is not designed to determine the best team of the year. It's determined to find out who's hot at the right time, which is how you get 12s beating 5s in college basketball and George Mason going on a regional final run in the NCAAs, or teams that are road teams in the wild card game, like the 80 Raiders winning the Super Bowl. The Giants, the Giant Super Bowl in in 07, the year they beat the Patriots. And they played 4 road games. It's all designed about who is hot right now. If you want to know the best team in the regular season or in a given season, as I'm losing people now, you look at regular season records. That's why the NHL gives you the President's Cup. Congratulations, Tampa Bay Lightning. You were the best team in the National Hockey League last year. But you couldn't string 4 wins together in the playoffs, and you got beat by the Columbus Blue Jackets. No cookie for you. Anything else? We're going to go for a half hour or so, but you got to, have me tell some other stories. So what else you got? I actually saw some stuff on Stratomatic PC Basketball. That pre-order came out. I haven't bought it, but they do have, and I am intrigued, the greatest 120 basketball players. And, of course, the current season that comes with the game. I bought Strat Pro Basketball, reason number 6057, why I flunked out of college. Played it when I had the room for such things, and then think I enjoyed it. But that's not a quickie play game. So let's see. So we talked about the World Series and pre-sims, and we'll do that again for the college football playoff one, for the final one that happens. And we'll pre-play the Super Bowl the Professional Football Championship, because the name, not Professional Football Championship, stuff that comes in a bowl that's rather super, is a copyrighted name. And so I do take money for my work. And so the NFL could say, you can't say that. So I have to call it the Professional Football Championship. True story. Not that I'd ever worry about, if the NFL is only worried about, people promoting their product, then we have other things going on. So any other questions? What's on your guys' mind? Let's see. So the playoff set, as I said, for Action PC is out. And so you get all the playoff teams. So if you wanted to, you could redo the whole thing. December is when the 2020 version of the game comes out. The 19 season will come out, and that CP, if you're still watching, that will also have as play lineups for the whole thing. And so maybe you can do what Mickey Callaway couldn't, and get the Mets over the hump. I guess he's about to become the pitching coach in for the Angels. He's going to join. I think I read he's going to join Joe Madden out there. Let's see. What else you guys got? Talk to me. Play for me, son. Play for me. It was interesting. I was chatting with mentioned earlier about with Ricky Keeler, and we got talking about card games last week, such as Euchre, which I still need to look up. And I felt lost watching it. Well, if you're not sure what to say, just say something. So, Dave and I are looking for possible topic ideas for. What do you think we'll see for Black Friday sales in the industry? Action PC, Dave Koch will have tremendous sales that morning that will run through about 11 a.m. So if you're looking to top up on massive seasons, one year I spent more money than I should have buying 50 seasons. It's one of the reasons why I have every baseball season from 19-1 forward. Strat will have something, but Cyber Monday. So it'll be throughout that holiday weekend. Status Pro, I'm sure we'll have stuff for sales. Just watch all the sites. I think ASG Games will have a good sale too. Like $20 a course or something like that for that. Depends on what they want to use for the baseball. I think one of the kind of crappier things that they've done or they're trying to prove is that the baseball they're using in the postseason is different from the one they use in the regular season. They juiced up the balls this year. No question about it. Not to take anything away from sluggers like Pete Alonso, who's just a very talented kid, but the lack of offense in the playoffs is pretty apparent. First two games of my pre-play in the World Series, we had 30 runs. And Washington, I think, won. Game 5 was 4-2. I think in games 3 and 4, they scored 7 apiece. So it depends on what Major League Baseball wants to set. What they need to do is cut down on the strikeouts. Then again, because hitters are so good, if you put the ball even a bit over the plate, good hitters are going to turn your mistakes into runs. Hockey scoring is up, by the way. Highest level in years. What'd I see? Highest level since 1996, and they've been fun to watch. I don't know nothing about any NBA, so don't ask about that. I forgot the season started, as a matter of fact. And we already talked about football, and I know nothing about. It's a good day. I got people in here that come in my chats, and they're Ohio State fans, and we love them anyway. But I woke up Saturday morning to my Notre Dame friends talking about, how much of an easy win it would be to beat Michigan and all that. Dun, 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 dun. This would be where I would play the Price is Right failure horns. So happy about that. Black Friday sales. So yeah, especially Action PC. It's a good time to stock up. Strat actually ran a baseball sale or a roster sale. So all their PC stuff was 25% off, excluding the new releases, which for them was a big deal. Wife needed to buy some other things, so I'm not going to be able to take advantage of the sale, but they are starting to show more sales. I'm not sure if Apple will do anything for Black Friday. Does anybody know about that? What if Apple does anything for Black Friday, Cyber Monday? If you're a regular on eBay, of course, you'll get some eBay bucks and good third-party stuff for used. I wonder, speaking of things for next year, do you think that teams would, Fandomatic and others, do you think teams might start to use, CP, if you're still here, starters in their off day to throw relief? Maybe not in April, May, or June, but down the stretch, it's worked for Davey Martinez. I honestly think it's one of the reasons why the Nationals are in the World Series. Or would you risk it? Would you risk it? Would you, if you told Clayton Kershaw, yeah, go down there and get me 2 outs in the 6th inning. Is he going to go, are you high? Or do you do it? When do you do it? So, okay. What else is on your guys' mind? You guys are awful quiet. Next, yeah, I don't think teams would do it on a regular basis. But I don't think anyone ever saw the opener thing happen either. And I don't like it, but it didn't happen when I was 14, and I don't like anything that happened in sports because it's not what happened when I was 14. There's my crankiness of the day. All right. But some of the best innovations are the ones you don't see coming. And it really is kind of like, in all sports, not just baseball. It's monkey see, monkey do. Going back to Bill Walsh and the West Coast offense. Oh, you can dump it off repeatedly to your running backs and get yards and throw 6 or 7 yard dinks and dunks to my tight ends. Let's go, Rangers. Bruins, Rangers at 7. What's the score of the Patriots game? And you'll get blacked out because that's on Nesson too. So I bet I get blacked out on that one as well. Is that hometown hockey? It's a strange one to have on. 24-10. So the Patriots are about to go 8-0. I remember when the Patriots played at the old stadium when they just wouldn't put a primetime game in there because A, the lighting was terrible, and B, the crowds would get unruly, and C, that field had no drainage whatsoever. There was a Monday night game against the Colts, 78-79, and a monsoon, kind of like it's doing tonight, and that place just became standing with water. And of course, all those seats were bleacher seats, were bench seats, they weren't seats. You had to bring, and that was one thunderstorm outside of that. What's the it's Dallas. They're actually hosting it at the Cotton Bowl. So I'm not sure who they're playing, but it's the Dallas Stars. And you don't have to worry about being for the weather and what the Cowboys are doing because the Cowboys haven't played the Cotton Bowl since 1970. And of course, the Cotton Bowl football game is no longer played at the Cotton Bowl. It's played at Jerry World at AT&T Stadium. I'm sure it's like Chicago or something like that, whatever NBC wanted to put there. Cleveland's hanging in. It'll be over soon. It's interesting because the weather's not all that warm in Dallas, and it's good to see other teams get it. I think, I don't know if Gainey's still here. I think the idea has kind of run its course. There was a cool game in Saskatchewan this past weekend between Calgary and Winnipeg up in Regina, but played it in a CFL stadium. But they played him in Fenway. They played him in Foxborough. There's no place big enough in Montreal outside that you can play him because I think the roof is permanent finally at Olympic Stadium. You wouldn't want to do it at Sky Dome in Toronto. Ottawa hosted one at their CFL field for the 100th anniversary of the league. The first one I thought was the best. The Buffalo-Pittsburgh game in Orchard Park with the Penguins and their baby blues, which looked very nice, and the snow. That was cool. The first time at Fenway, first time at Wrigley, first time at Yankee Stadium. I know they've done one at Citi Field. Somehow the Rangers hosted them both. I know have we done one in Philadelphia? I know Philadelphia's been in one, but I don't know if they've actually hosted it. Strangest place they've ever hosted an outside game was Las Vegas. It was a preseason game for the Kings. This was years ago. They held it at Caesar's Palace. And you kind of have to wonder, it was at night, but it's still Vegas, and so it's still warm, how well you can maintain the ice when it's 80 degrees outside. Again, it was a preseason game. They put up the rink, I think, every year at Fenway. There was one year they had to delay it because it was too windy. I love the concept, but then they have 4 or 5 outdoor games a year, and it kind of loses something when you get the Stadium Series and that. I suppose, like I said, I mean, the NBC really doesn't want them in Canada because none of the Canadian markets count for American television ratings. But really, Toronto and Montreal is what you'd want with them. Or do what the Bruins do the day after Thanksgiving. They had the Black Friday game. This year it's the Rangers and the Bruins, and that game's on big NBC. You know, do it like the NFL did with the Lions. Here's a story. You know why the Lions got a Thanksgiving Day game to start with? Because the NFL was just looking for volunteers to play. Look, it's a holiday. We think we can get radio. This is predates television. We think we can get radio to cover the game. Who wants it? And the only team to volunteer was Detroit. And that's how the Lions became the host on Thanksgiving Day. Because they're the only ones that wanted it. And eventually, of course, there was, more games. There was 2 games. And then when the AFL came, there was 3 games. And for a few years in the 70s, the second game wasn't in Dallas. It was in St. Louis. There was. The Red Wings played one in Ann Arbor. They also played one at Comerica, too, I think. And there was the last year was at Notre Dame. I think the Blackhawks hosted Notre Dame. St. Louis held a Thanksgiving Day game for 2 years, and then Dallas grabbed it back and hasn't lost. And now teams will rotate for that prime time game. But Kansas City's wanted one for a long time, and teams like the Giants and the Jets don't want them because their employees have to work. And they don't want that. It's supposed to be family time. But so that's what I'd like to see on New Year's Day. Maybe a team start that tradition of having the 1:00 Eastern start on New Year's, and then maybe having a marquee interdivisional matchup. Obviously, I wouldn't want the Bruins because they would lose their day after Thanksgiving slot. But since it's a holiday on both sides of the border, maybe you get the Bruins up to Montreal. Not Montreal, Toronto. Those games are boring anyway. Throw somebody a bone and make it somewhat special. Maybe that's when you feature a West Coast team like a St. Louis or a Kings. But, something there. Because I do think it's going to lose its luster. Anything else you guys want to talk about? Or have any questions? We'll be doing at some point, probably later this week, I will do the response video to the OOTP History of Baseball. There was some request of what did this person do? What did that person do? And why didn't I do it at the time? I didn't do it at the time because it was already at 45 minutes. So we'll take another hour for that. Dave Gardner and I are going to, I think Thursday, maybe Wednesday, depending if there's a game 7 or not, start our Stratomatic Stanley Cup thing. What else? Football this week. It's going to be Houston at Miami on Tuesday, and the Giants and Cowboys from New Jersey on Thursday. Those are the 2 week 9 games. Halfway through the football season, if you can believe that. And of course, I think what we're going to be an annual tradition on this channel is a wild card on Christmas night. Christmas falls on a Wednesday this year, and Christmas night we will play one of the 2 wild card games in prime time. And so on Tuesday, we'll go through and show you, as we're halfway through the season, what's what with the standings in there. So what else? Still looking for topics, by the way, for podcasts for Dave and I to tape on Tuesday. Big that. Any other questions that you might have? And anything else? And so I got to see if I can find a guest next week for the Ron Juckett Show. I need to find another time for that. We've been doing them Saturday nights. I might move them to Friday nights. Something about me wanting to watch hockey on Saturday nights. Used to be the Canadians would play at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, back when Hockey Night in Canada was just one game on the no doubleheader, it's just one game. And so most of the country got whoever the Maple Leafs were playing, and Quebec East in English got whoever the Canadians were playing. And once in a while, if like Edmonton or Vancouver were playing, they would get that game. And so the western part of the country would get that game. So they could split the country 3 ways, or they could split it 1 way. Or once in a while, Montreal wasn't playing on a Saturday night, and we got stuck with whoever was playing Toronto. But Toronto was in the other conference then. Then they started with the double headers every week. And now, of course, Toronto's always on CBC, and that's that. So, but they're actually playing Dallas next Saturday. So, anything else? I'm gonna take a drink. Oh yeah. Tribe fan remembers dad and uncle missing Christmas Eve in '88 for a Browns Oilers squad card game. Grandparents were mad. True story, and I'm sure most of you know this. The NFL played, I think it was divisional games Christmas Day of 1971. I don't remember. I was a month old. And of course, that was the infamous Miami-Kansas City game in Kansas City that went into at least one overtime. It doesn't matter. It ran really, really, really long. And not only did Heidi not run when it was supposed to, actually, I don't think Heidi was supposed to play that night, but there were dinners that were late because that game ran so long. And so for 20 years, I think 92 or 93, the NFL finally put a game on Christmas again. The NFL would not touch Christmas with a 10-foot pole. I remember in high school one year when Christmas fell on like a Saturday or Sunday during the playoffs, or maybe the last week of the season. Now they'll just play on Christmas Eve. But I remember watching the game on a Friday afternoon, like on the 23rd, like a Saints game. Ed Podolak had a huge game. Yep. So I've been told. I don't remember. You know, the other thing is, and here's some food for thought while you guys come up with other topics in the next 10 minutes or so. Halloween, of course, is this week. And what do I dress up as? I dress up as myself. I can't eat the candy. Usually went to waste anyway. And I don't go trick-or-treating. And I really don't drink. So there's really no, and I'm married. So, you know, not getting that either. November, you know, so that is All Souls Day, Halloween, or All Hallows Eve. Is All Souls Day. November 1st, well, my oldest sister's birthday is the 30th. She's not watching this. She'll be, I won't say, I'll be nice. November 1st is All Saints Day. I always wondered why, as a kid, 7, 8, 9 years old and dumb enough to not know any better, why the Saints don't play on All Saints Day. It's their holiday. I mean, I would play the song, but I'll get copyrighted. You know, I mean, when the Saints go marching in, you know, that's that day. I don't understand why the NFL hasn't taken advantage of that. And can you imagine? You don't necessarily have to play a good team. Of course, the Saints were terrible when I was a kid. Maybe that's why they didn't get it. But imagine the Saints playing every year on November 1st. Wouldn't that be fun? I think so. All right. Anything else? Okay. So we told you the football games. National League final in that 60s tournament is next week, next Sunday. And it will be the 65 Pirates at the 65 Reds at the 60 Pittsburgh Pirates. I think the Reds will win that game. The Reds are the only team in that tournament with any offense whatsoever. any offense whatsoever. And the American League game will be in 2 weeks. It'll be the 67 Red Sox and the 69 Orioles. My CVS had candy corn on sale yesterday. You might want to check that. I mean, some things obviously would be deeply discounted, but I could not believe the stuff on sale at CVS yesterday in the Halloween section. That's kind of spooky, and God, there'll probably be some sort of awful color rush on that. All sorts of orange. I even avoid the pumpkin spice crap at Dunkin' Donuts. Although I have to admit, I had a pumpkin donut last year and I liked it. And I don't like pumpkin pie. I don't like pumpkin spice. I don't like pumpkin. Yeah, I said it. I don't like. My wife, of course, will go into Dunkin' and get pumpkin spice this and pumpkin spice that and yeah, whatever. Crazy woman. I love her dearly. So Bengals Browns on Halloween. Ugh. So we do have that will be the Cowboy Giant game will be on Halloween because that's Thursday, and I'm not dressing up. I'm not dressing up at all because I get accused of bias and don't want that. All right, anything else really quick? So yeah, if there's no game 7, I'll talk to Dave. Maybe we'll do that Wednesday night, but Wednesday or Thursday. Hopefully he's feeling better. Talk to him. His voice is still not great. Again, anybody gonna want to suggest a topic for the next Digital Advice podcast would be greatly appreciated. We'll pretty much, put it on the screen or put it in the chat, and we'll pretty much do it. And that. So yeah, after Halloween candy sales, my mother would throw out my Halloween candy around Christmas. I'd eat a couple things. The sugar daddies I liked. Sweet tarts I never liked. Did you guys like sweet tarts? The one Red Bull I ever had back when I was really fat, had it with a donut, as a matter of fact. Tasted like sweet tarts to me. Like, why the hell would anybody drink this? It was gross. I don't think there's one place for the Cyber Monday deals, but we could do maybe next month the best gift for tabletop gamers. And that would be actually that's a good one probably for next month. I might in maybe next week's chat with or ask Uncle Ron might what would be your ultimate gift. I don't want it now, but maybe some. But that's a good one. That's a good one. For years, speaking of Thanksgiving, and we'll unless you guys have something else, we'll let it go with this. They tried to time it so that we got through most of the Lions game before we sat down to eat. TV was off, spend time with that was the one the family came to. And then we'd all sit there and fall asleep to the second half of the Cowboy game, full of turkey and stuffing and carbs and all that. But eventually my mother just kind of started to like football because my dad did. And so the last few times that we all got together for Thanksgiving, the TV stayed on. we watched football during Thanksgiving. I'm sure it's kind of like, Tribe fans, grandparents, that they would be absolutely livid at the thought of the TV being on for Thanksgiving dinner. But the NFL is just as much as part of the holiday as the turkey and the stuffing and the parades. And then you fall asleep watching it. I mean, you're just finishing it up anyway to go watch, right? That's what I did. It's my birthday. Not this year, but that. All right, anything else really quick? And then we'll let you go. Still 24-10. I shut off the TV. All right, so that's what we got going on next week. There could be a surprise or two thrown in. You just never know. Thank you to all my Patreons or patrons on Patreon and all my new subscribers. We do live content 3 or 4 days a week, 2 days a week at noontime at least. Actually, it'd be 3. Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday at noon. 2 football games and a baseball game and whatever else we kind of feel like it. So I'll give it one more minute. Man, I'm just looking at that Bengals Browns and Halloween and just getting orange shakes there. Ugh. So, all right. I guess you guys are leaving. So, hey, thank you so much for watching. Hit that like and subscribe. We do this about once a week. We'll find a new regular time for it. So enjoy the rest of your weekend, everybody. I'm Ron Shuckett. We'll talk to you Tuesday at lunch for the Oilers and the Dolphins from Miami. Until then, have a good one.